Hi team, welcome back. Day 8 for our AnyAUT Certified Tester training. Day 8, right? Where is day 8? Didn't I change it? Let's see. I thought I made a copy and changed it. No? No. Then make a copy. I did this. Day 8. Okay, there we go. And we'll quickly take a recap where we are. Most of it will be on AnyAUT. So team, for us, we're working on Sony's car wash factory. Now here we've set up the AnyAUT account for Sony's car wash. So right, let's look at what we did there. I want to make sure that I have the right credentials also. And each of you are doing the same things at your end is at what I'm assuming team. So from my side, I'm using kk@workasa.com, but you'll have to check what account you're using team. Let's make sure that this is for, just by looking here, I can't make out. Yeah, Sony's car control. So we've added one module under that, user administration. I just called it as M1 user admin. Under that, do I have any test cases? Test case 1, login incorrect. There are no test steps, I believe. Oh no, I've written 7 steps. That's cool. Now, this does not have any test data or ting, 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 ting. I haven't executed this right. There is a defect in AnyAUT which will not let me do it unless I set up some reusable components. Okay, so primarily the crux of all the activity that we did in the last session was to create one test scenario team. Look, this one with 7 steps. And each step we went through this process. And this is the main one that you will start focusing a lot and ensuring that you create using the right keyword, give the right information to it. Now, what keyword, what data goes into it as a combination is only through practice that will come to you, team. Of course, there's help and suggestions that will keep coming up as you select them, but predominantly you have to build experience in this. These are very, very similar and actually do the same thing as Selenium WebDriver keyword. All that we said is instead of writing each time a code for opening a browser or navigating a browser and having to write that in Java, we said we'll create this low-level keywords as a reusable component. And for example, there is this verify value. In this, I want to send what is the locator type, what is the exact locator itself for that, and test data. So what am I saying? On that element in the application, I want to make sure to see if this data is there. So if this data is there, it's going to pass or it's going to fail else. So for every keyword, we've put things into perspective. So for example, verify text anywhere, a little different. And here verify partial text. So within an entire text, I want to make sure that only section of it at least is present. So each keyword has been coded and put into team. What are the inputs and output depend specifically on what action we have to do. For example, clicking on an element, it just has to go type and so on. So that kind of a framework is what is there in the background. We're not getting into the code level. For us as AnyAUT certified tester, we want to use this application, that Excel, to be able to execute most of them. So what are the steps? Open browser, go to that, navigate to that URL, type text again, click an element, verify text. And for each of this, we have either given element identifications, XPath, and some test data. That becomes one execution team. But if you notice, I might have multiple test cases. If I hard code everything here, it becomes a challenge team for us to really make it elaborate. So from that perspective, there are 3 frameworks that have evolved into AnyAUT. Let me explain these 3 frameworks and then show how we have implemented that. So the first is data-driven framework team. In this, the perspective is very simple. If I have a test case, I want to execute that test case against multiple sets of test data to see what is happening. So I want to see my application's behavior when data changes. And if I written this test like this, and I need to change username and password, I have to change it for hundreds of test cases. And that is the reason we said, why don't we centralize this data? So that became our data-driven approach. How that is constructed into AnyAUT, very simple. So in the reusable components, we go to test data. So I can here create sets of test data. And there is one here, which I'll just delete for now, team. Old version, old data. Nothing here. There's no test data set or test data in it. Be very careful of how I'm creating this. This is important. I'll say this is td01 underscore incorrect user. Okay. And I'll give it a name, test data 01 with incorrect user credentials. So I don't have the right information is what I'm saying. Oh, it's not letting me take beyond certain characters. Now I'm going to add this test data set ID team. So once we add it, then you'll start seeing it here. Otherwise you don't. So why do I create a test data set ID? Because under this, I will have multiple set of information. Now in this, if you notice our test case, it has a few things. I'll say there's one URL, and let's give that URL. Sorry, right click on test steps, open link in new window. Yeah, here, I'm just taking this team. You can't see the entire information team, and that's when you click on the plus and it'll kind of supposed to expand everything, or you can edit and delete too. So I've taken that URL, I'm gonna put it here, and this becomes my test data in that. Again, in the same set, I will say vBrowser, a name for the browser. I'll say this is Chrome. Add. vUsername, junk name at test data. Very patiently, team. I'm kind of handling this. We'll do an execution after this. Variable. Now see, as we keep adding, they'll keep getting here. Only one test data set, but against that set, we have URL, browser, username so far. Now I'm creating password. And this, let's put junk password at test data. And then maybe variable email also, junk at, hopefully there's no domain with that name, .com added. So now I have this predefined or preset into my template itself, team, that I have my test data one that looks like this. Now, that is basically how we've created multiple sets of test data. How do we execute that on test cases? We will come to it. But then comes the next challenge, team. In any application, you will also notice that whenever I have to write a test case, right, I have to go about doing it either in Eclipse, Selenium ID, Catalan, UFT, or even if it comes to our AnyAUT, I have to specifically write the test case, one test case at a time, correct? And these test cases, will continue to evolve, continue to change, and so on. So how do we give an action to it in such a way that I don't write the program for the steps, but just the keyword to it as to what it should do, and my smart framework goes into the backend code, identifies that corresponding keyword, and go about executing everything. So to break down your application into multiple scenarios as functional modules, that is what keyword driven framework does, team. And each keyword can be combined into and each keyword is doing some operation on the application, and these are your built-in keywords. So built-in keywords as to I don't want to code every time. I know what my test case is built about. Whenever I have to write a new test case, do I need to do coding or can I do it without it? So this keyword driven framework will help us to write test cases without having to do some technical aspects to it. Now, what becomes interesting is let us assume, let me put it in the drawing itself. Let us assume that there is a test case here. Okay. All right. For Sony's car control, let us assume that there is a multiple test cases team. How many? Let us say there are 75 test cases. Okay. Now, one of the most common aspects of this will be login to that application. Don't you think so, team? Login is common to most of the test cases. There may be a dozen test cases which are testing something on the application without doing a login. But for test case 1 to test case 75, this login is common and it will look exactly like this. And I'm saying that I have to go and write this. Now, tomorrow, let us say that I have type text, and then a new thing has come in between before I click element, or how I'm doing this flow has changed. You have to make those changes in 75 places, team. You understand what I'm saying? And that becomes a hell of a lot of challenge for us to handle. And what that does is our basic thumb rules, efficiency, reusability, accuracy, that gets affected. So to handle this, what we did is we introduced a more of an add-on to the keyword thing, and we called it as a user-defined keyword. A user-defined keyword is primarily specific to a customer. So built-in keyword can be used to automate any application. A user-defined keyword is nothing but a combination of multiple built-in keywords as one. And instead of having 7 steps, I just call it by that name. Let me put it into implementation and show you this user-defined keyword. So under your reusable components, we've got what so far. Now see, keep going back to your dashboard. It'll start looking slowly improving. So one module, one test case, one step, 0 elements. We haven't come there. One test data set that we created. There seems to be one user-defined keyword. We're going there, team. So click on it. And we are here. General user underscore login. I'm sure login with any, it was created, but there are no steps of it. Then that is good. I'll delete it. I don't need this. Now, this page will look very similar to how we did test setup of steps team. Please, no one at this point should get confused. And I'll explain to you very simple. Anytime I want to execute anything, team, I want to know what module, what test case, what's the step number, what does it do, and those 3 specific details that will help me to automate, just like we saw in Selenium ID, command, target, and value. Now, and we've created those steps. What I am trying to do is I'm going to create one new step, and that step name will be something like user login, and that will have open browser, navigate, type text, click element till verify text all the way. And that I'm going to create it here. See, when you're creating a test case, or sorry, when you're adding a test step, regular one team, this is how you will see. And here I have a user defined keyword, which is right now blank, or a built-in keyword. These are about 66 of them. So whatever we can do single thing, we have it here. Now we go back to reusable components. So I have this here. Let me keep this to the side. It'll be handy. Where was the other version here? User defined keywords. Now see, it looks a little different here compared to this page. This is to add test steps. This is to add user defined keyword. So UDK, right? I'll say this is to do with Sony's car control. So I'll say Sony's login. That is the name that I've given to him. Login to Sony's car control. And that's become my user defined keyword. Now, this keyword, what I have to do is build steps on it. There's nothing on it. So what does Sony's login has to do? It has to do 1 to 6. So I'm going to create that here, team. So go here. Step 1 is open. And see, I only have built-in keyword here. There is no more concept of user defined keyword. It does not break it down further. So you take a built-in keyword, which is all visible here. I'm going to almost do the same. Open browser. And here, type of element is I've not done elements yet. Data is there. Ting, 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 ting. Element is not there. Ting, 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 ting. Okay. So team, can I just park for a few seconds? Built-in keyword and user-defined keyword. Finish the third part of this element identification thing or frameworks, and come back to this. Let me explain this also, then it's easy. All right, now what is the third one? So this is data-driven framework. This is helping us to implement keyword-driven framework, where I show you. The third one, and what we've been seeing very popular, is POM or Page Factory. Now the model is very simple, team. All that they say is, listen, an application is built about a lot of pages. Each page has specific objects or elements, and every object or element, I will identify it, put that detail of how to identify that element in one of the Java classes. And on that element, what is it that I can perform, the action or method? I will put those methods also as a combination and put it there. And then basically at a code level, I will say that get username or get password and so on. But primarily the fact being, elements can change, and elements are used across multiple tests, not just for one test per page. So we want to be able to reuse these elements and call them quickly one by one, so that we can interact with them rather than having to recreate them each time. Now, the typical page object model Page Factory is all, or in most of these frameworks, the way it was built to take this information and put it into Eclipse team or any IDE at a code level, and that's still not comfortable for a manual engineer. So what we have done is, I said, let's identify all that we need about this application and put and create that element. Now see this element type, one time use, one time use, one time use. Here are about 4 elements that we need to identify. So what we're gonna do, team, is before I continue with the user defined keyword here, let me add a few elements. So reusable components. And do you see this element map? We've gone through test data, team. We were going through user defined keywords. Built-in keywords is just a list of all the existing keywords. These are the 4 reusable components that we have. Now element map, once we get here, I'm going to add elements by page. So see how it's going to be now, team. Let me open up the application. See, I hope all of you are replicating what I'm doing, at least in the same fashion at your end, team. That's good practice to be having. Now see, this is a page. This is my home page, correct? So I want to identify objects here in this login page, rather not even home page, login page. So the first page I'll say is login page, okay? And main login page. You can give the URL also if you want, just in the description, and create that page. Now in this page, oops, there you go. Now it's come. I'll identify first element. What is this? I'll say logo. And how do I identify the logo? This is logo on top right. Sorry, top left. And I can right click, inspect, quickly look at it, and there's an image and it's got a source and it's got an ID. So for me, element using XPath and // what was it? IMG ID is logo. Team, next week onwards, I will go a little bit more XPath details when we start the next training and how we write them and implement it. So right now, I think this should work, element identification using XPath, and this element is added. Whenever I want to do anything with this, I will now be able to call it by using this name, just logo. And the good thing is, even if I log in and go wherever, if this continues to be there, it'll be there. Now, what's the second one? I want to enter the username here. So same page, uname, and for this, I created something. So let me not worry. Enter username. ID is login underscore IC. So ID login hyphen username. We already did this exercise last time, right, team? So I don't have to redo it. And I added this element. Next, one more, same page. Password. What are the ones? Uname. So I'll say UPSWD team. This is okay. I'm sorry. I thought this was data. ting 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 ting. Username logo. Where am I now? Password field. Login hyphen password. Element by ID login hyphen password. Add element, and then I have a button. Click on login button. I'm giving names that are easily identifiable, team, because it'll help change things for us. So I have an XPath for this. Let me copy this entire XPath. Be careful with spaces, quotes, double quotes, and all, team. And especially when you're copying, pasting, please fill out all the forms. Okay. Login button. All right. So that's added. I have 4 now. Now, what is the last thing I wanted? Once I enter some junk and click on login, I'm getting this error message, right? So this error message, where is it located? And for this identification also, we already did it here. Verify error. Oh no. One second. I did something incorrect. Button is here, see? Let's change this. Edit. This is actually login error. So we'll change this to login error and we'll add a button. I hope I can change login error, element by ting ting ting. What am I doing here? iXpath. Yes, so save changes. Saved. One more to add. Login button now. By XPath and submit. Okay. So the web framework gives us a very strict guideline on how we go about entering our information team, especially reusable, because once you enter, there is a lot of magic in it. Now my elements are added. Let's go back to the user-defined keywords. So team, this page is responsive, so that's why you'll see it changing totally when we change the size of it. All right. Let's keep it either way. Where are we? User-defined keyword, Sony's login. This is what we were working on. And on this, we wanted to add steps, right? So Sony's login, my first step would be to open browser. Now to open a browser, I have open browser. Now type of element, if I say one-time use, I can select by using what methodology and enter the value like we did first time. But now I say reusable and I get an opportunity to select that name of that element. So here, what is the first thing that we want to do, team? Any element that is needed? Nothing here. So we can ignore that. For opening a browser, you need a test data team. Here, reusable, and I'll say browser. What is the browser I want? Add it. So that becomes your first step. Your second step, and see, it's got a lot of restrictions, team. As soon as I enter one, it does not let you. So it's very strict with how we enter things. Second step is what, team? Where are we? Here. Navigate browser type text. Okay. I'm going to quickly start doing it. Now for navigating browser, again, I don't need element. I just need the test data. And I have to say where I want to navigate it to. That's to the URL. So that's done. Now my third step for Sony's login, enter username. So for this, we know that we use type text. That's the command. And for typing text, always remember, team, as an automation, this is where we have to be smart. If I have to click somewhere, I just need the element locator identification. That's good. If I have to type somewhere, I need the element locator. I also need test data. So there's both that information that has to go for it. And here, hence, I'm going to put where do I want to type? It's reusable. I have my elements here. See, this is the username field. And what do I want to type? Username. And that's it. So with a lot of clicks, we are able to generate our steps now for password. And keyword is same, type text. One time use, no, reusable. Password, element is password, user password, reusable, and element is password here too. And see, do you see this team create out here? It basically takes you on a different page to add a new element, save it, so you can come back before quitting here. So this is added. And now I have these 4 steps, team. I wish the descriptions are much neater and better, but we're getting there. So we've entered the password, click on login button. Oof, where are we? Step number 5. 5. And that's a simple click for us. I'm sorry. So click button or click element works the same way, team. So I'll just use click element for now. The thing with button is sometimes we can give just button text and it works, but we would rather want you to put that text in the XPath itself. Okay, anyway, click element, one time use. Where do we want to click on it? It doesn't require test data. So we're trying to log in, correct? Oh no, sorry, reusable and login button. That's correct. And then comes my step 6. Right, 5, no, 6. Error. And for error, we need to verify team. Verify text is a very important one here. And here I have to say where I want to verify. That's that login error. That is where that error will come, we're saying. And what is it that I'm expecting there? Oh, I didn't add that error message. See, in my test data, I need to add that error message. Invalid username and password combination. How do I do that? Let me add it here itself. So click on create. Test data set ID I have. So I'll take that same. In that URL, v browser, username, v password, v error, I'll say now. V login error. And value is this. That's it. And just refresh this portion. So whatever you return there does not get affected. So clicked on refresh. There we go. We login error. And add this user defined keyword. Can everyone else hear me? Wow, team, were you not able to hear okay so far? So long I've been speaking. You should have told me, team, voice is not good. Now it's good, but what about all this time I've been spending with so much of energy and effort speaking? Next time, if you don't hear it clearly, let me know, team. All the time it was good? All right. Now I just noticed that the mic piece was way up on my head. All right. So team, now see, look at it strategically how we've come up. There is a test case that we wrote with all the individual steps. And now I have a user defined keyword called Sony's login with all of this. Now let us do something about this, team. Okay. Go back to our test setup. Look at our test cases. All right. And I have login incorrect. This is there. And I'm sure it has steps. How many steps? 7, right? Now I'll create one more test case, team, similar. TC, oopsie. Where did I go? Okay, here. TC02 login incorrect. Using user UD case. UDK. That's the primary difference. Test case has been added. Now let's look at it. For this test case, which is in user admin module, test case ID, test case to login incorrect using UDK, I have one step, and that is login as a user. And built-in keyword is all those list of 66 that we have, one action at a time. User defined keyword, if you have any, will show up here, and it is Sony's login. So for logging in, what does it use? We are anyway doing login incorrect with that test data, right? So I'll talk about how do we associate that now. So that is done. I don't need to worry about any more of these right now. Just add the test step. The second step then after that would be to close the browser, which is a built-in keyword. Close browser and add test step. Okay, great. Thank you, team. So now what we have done, we have finished. Where am I? Let's see my dashboard. I have two test cases, there are a few steps and so on. Elements created, all this is there, team, but splattered over everywhere. Now, at this point is when we're still in the test planning team. We've not come to test run setup, test execution, is where you click on the export test setup. What this does is it's a very, very important feature, team. Whatever you have done in your modules all the way to built-in keywords, it'll export that into one Excel sheet or one Excel file. And this is how it looks, team. So kind of a replication directly out of what we are doing here, but in an Excel layout format. Let's look at what the sheet does. Where is it? There you go. AUT, that's the first tab, just the application under test what we have. We don't use this information anywhere, team. It's more like a placeholder for us. Modules, one module, remember we created two test cases. Did you see this? It says what those test case description are. Now look at the test steps, team. See what it does is it'll go about taking one module at a time, one test case at a time in the order of number of the test step number, and even these Excel 1, 2. So here is where the difference is. Same steps, 7 here, 2 here. And here I have a user defined keyword. And this is the action keyword, what has to be done. This being our UDK. How does our smart AnyAUT framework now know that this is how it is? It looks at what type and then it goes. So it navigates through the sheet in a strong manner. Then we have element type. It's all one-time use here. And test data also one-time use here. And I have one more test case, does exactly the same, but it has used a user-defined keyword. These are the 6 steps. So anytime I just call that one step, just a list of built-in keywords, what they do, again, static sheet. Here is the element identification. Remember we added for login page, I have element names, description, how they're identified, and that identification itself. And then we have the test data. That's primarily giving me information on whatever we've used for it. So this is incorrect, right? So junk username, that's what we've kind of put. So that's the test setup, team. Now comes in terms of execution. So typically at this point, you could do manual execution using Excel or looking at this and so on. But let's talk about the automation part. Let's go to test run setup, everyone. And this is the important portion. So here is where you have the ability to choose what you want to execute. You may have dozen modules. You don't want to execute everything every time. So you get to choose which module. Let us say in user admin module, you only want few, then you can select that or no test cases. So if you say select test cases, then individually you have to select them. All the test cases in the module is selecting them all. Now, what is important is when we are executing a test case, I have to associate it with a set of test data. There is only one here right now, team, but that's fine. I'll keep that. And if you want to see what the data is, click on the view. You have the complete detail of what we have used for it. If it keeps increasing the list will show up here. The same one, I'm going to set it up for the next one, team. We only have one module and only one set of test data, just a couple of test cases, not very in detail, but just as a sample for us. So I'm going to save this And each time we save it, give it a name, team. And I'm going to call this as 4th November. Click on the save test run setup. Do not hit enter. With enter, it is escaping actually. So you've saved that test run. Now that save is actually happened in the 3rd section. So you've prepared what you want to run, and now you go to execute it itself, team. So the one that I created is here. Do you see this? And if I click on this download, it will get me that specific selection for us. So the test setup, difference between test setup and this test run, team. Test setup has everything that it requires, all that information. In this test run, it'll tell me which ones I want to execute. Yes for this module, yes for each of this test case, and this test case against this set of data and this set of data. Then we have the steps and all that is standard after that, team. So this now becomes the main sheet that is used for the automation execution. So our AnyAUT knows how to do that execution, team. So let's follow these simple steps and this should work. As long as you have Java runtime environment, you are all good. So at this point, team, you want to download the AnyAUT desktop jar. It will be an old version, so there'll a couple of changes that you'll have to do. I'll guide you through quickly. So this one is an installable jar, team. So I'm just gonna keep and open it up. And it's got a 6 steps to put that whole thing together. Keep everything default selected. And let's browse through. I'm gonna put it into our folder for training that we're doing. Ting, 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 ting. I'm putting everything into October Selenium itself, team. So ACT is also here. Okay, cool. Should I just create a folder called AnyAUT Orange? That's the version, team. A little older ones, but that's the one. Next. Already exists. I sure you want to install here and possibly overwrite existing file. Sure, no problem. Next. Finished. All done. Perfect. So let's go there. All right. Now everything from there has been installed into this folder, team. Okay. Now the Excel that we downloaded, where is that? I'll put it here for now. At this point, team, okay, I have to close it. I didn't do anything here much, so let me minimize everything first. Try again. Okay, I have the sheet here. So simple, you've kind of downloaded that and installed like I showed you, everyone. Should not be a challenge. I will try to execute it as is and see what happens. Or, then we'll go and change the browser for sure, Tim, because this browser file would have been very old. Yeah, it'll not run, team. Why unnecessary? Let's change this browser itself. Anyway, that's a good option always. This is the latest one, Chrome driver. Replace the file in the destination. So team, get your latest Chrome driver there. Though all these terms sound very techy and fancy, there is nothing in that, team. Chrome driver download, just search for that. you will see that Chromium link itself, and you can always go there and download the latest version. Depending on what version of Chrome you're using, we can do it. So this should be pretty much easy. I've replaced it, team, with the latest one. So this is the one. Similarly, you have to do it for the others too, Gecko driver and so on. So here, let's give it a name. I'll just say KK test and run by KK. Now let's go and select that Excel sheet. I hope it works. AnyAUT orange, and this is the one, team. So test run underscore KK 4th November. So already everything is selected there as to what we want to do. Timeout is basically how long do you want to wait for page loads and syncing up with the application. Click on execute. What it does basically is it creates this result folder, team. That's the first one. In that, it'll prepare whatever we have to do. Oopsie, I shouldn't have opened it. I hope it's already done. Okay, yeah. Now it's executing it, team. So it's gone to Sony's control. It's tried to sign in, but it's not clicked on login yet. I don't know why. And we'll have to fix that. One more test case is there, team. Let that also execute. Shouldn't take so long for the next one. Ah, there you go. This one must be with the UDK. If it didn't work for the first one, it didn't work for the second one also. But unlike in Eclipse or in Selenium IDE, your test does not stop if there is an issue. It continues with the remaining scenarios and steps. So anyway, what I wanted to show to you before the test results itself. Okay, so remember when we opened this at the beginning, the first thing that got created is this test run. Okay, there are 4 Excel sheets, team, in the whole life cycle of AnyAUT. The first one is the test setup. It's got all the test cases in it. The second one is the test run, as to what specifically you want to run. The third one is what we call as the expanded test, or yeah, it's the expanded test run sheet. The final is the result sheet. It's all like TRT, but basically there are 4 sheets. First with everything in it. Second sheet with which ones, modules, test cases, test data combination. Next is something in between. And then finally the results sheet. Now this something in between is very simple, team. Where was the first sheet that we had? Now see here, there are multiple sheets. And where I said this test case is with this test data, then in the test step, this information here for test data will kind of get replaced. So all this information which is there with parameters, test data, element ID, UDK is expanded and put into this sheet. This sheet is nothing but what is the test case that we need to execute and all the steps with actual data put into it. So your UDK also is expanded now, see, to more than one step. So this is the first test case has 7 steps. This also has 7 steps. So this is the last one it creates, the framework creates, and basically then goes blindly executing one step at the other. It does not go back and reflect anything anymore. And after that is done, it gets us the results here, team. And this is the run result sheet. I'm sorry. So in the run result sheet, we get to see what happened. to each step. If it failed, where did it fail? Why did it fail? And possibly take a screenshot of it also. So this is your, and every step, how long it took, and so on. Now, the same thing we can see in a much more sophisticated report out here. Sorry, team. So this is the interesting part, team. So post execution, you could go in and look at the dashboard as to what happened. There were 14 steps in total. Remember, 7 in each. Sorry, team. It actually took only 1 minute, less than a minute overall. And you can see a pie chart as to how many passed. 10 steps passed, 4 steps failed. And overall 71% is your pass percentage. Now in this, when you go to your other tab, which has details of your tests, every test case, what time it started, what time it ended, how long it took, every step as to what we did in it. I'm sorry, team. Having a little bad throat. And then when a step failed for us, we can click on that step and see what that detail is there. Just by looking at this, I don't even know what the error detail is, but primarily that is when you go back to that Excel sheet to compare that what happened here. So it tells me that verification failed. Click element, no such element exception. This is what is verification failed? Oh, for click element. Click element, why is it saying verification failed? It did not click on that. That is my problem. Maybe I should try click button. In the latest version, we've replaced everything with click element, but it could be that click button had an issue. Let me try this. So the easiest way for us to do this is now go back to that Excel. Let me close everything. Let's launch again, but this time okay, Chrome, test steps. Let's say click button. See, if, no, it should not be click button. It should be click element itself. Because if I change here, I have to change in user defined keyword also here. Same sheet, I'll take it. Let's try. So team, I want all of you to kind of get to this extent, write the correct test case, simple one, sorry, like this, and then we should be able to practice further. Any questions so far, team? Next 2-3 sessions, we're going to complete a lot into this. See how we can do additions into, how we can really take this forward. Okay, we here, open this. Giving 10 seconds is more than enough. Now, primarily, what you'll start noticing is once you have the base version of Excel created from the web UI, you could pretty much start maintaining all your tests within this Excel itself. rather than on AnyAUT.com. So that's the option. I saw some execution closure happen. I did not see, team, if it did it. Did you observe it doing anything? It was pretty fast for us. So I think it did click. Uh, Otherwise, it would have slowed down. But for us, the best way to look at it is go back to results. And I have my KK run to result. And the fact that there is no screenshots folder implies that this has all passed. And you will see that exactly what happened is here. Now, the same thing, you change the text, for example, in the test data. And invalid username and password, instead of combination, you say combo and execute it. So this is basically a scenario on your application where you're saying that things work fine, but when the message comes, it's supposed to be different from what we see. And how does that result come for us? Last one to execute, team, and then I'll end today's session. Come up with questions, please, if you have any tomorrow. We'll definitely take them up. So far, I hope, team, you're able to get a good perception of how things are working, what we're developing, what we're building in this program. Everyone comfortable so far? We'll be increasing the speed significantly now. So I would want you to follow along. This execution, it is logging in and it is finishing it. It did not slow things down. And now my results, let us observe. Wow, again, all correct. But that is not supposed to be right. Correct? See, this is good. There's no screenshot taken, but the first one passed because error message, what I wanted came up. But I only changed that error message in the user defined keyword, and that is why it captured. It did not capture a screenshot for some reason, team. But otherwise, it did what we wanted it to do. Now, in here, you could do like crazy number of things, team. So this is one set of test data. I can put it into another set and call this as Firefox, for example. Okay. And this is 2, let us say, just giving it a name. Now I can go and say that, first test case just on this, but the second test case, I want to also execute on the TD02. So I just continue to give all the test data sets one after the other in here itself. And it will go about executing all that combination. So this is Chrome Firefox. This is also Chrome Firefox, just as a variation to show you, team. You can also change your passwords here. Now, instead of the incorrect ones, if I put the correct ones, it should also take us there. One quick thing I just wanted to show. So, if I have to do Firefox, then make sure that it browses for Firefox, the Gecko driver is updated. I will take Gecko driver from here, put it here, replaced, and let's try once again, just a quick execution trial, team. So see how many times we are kind of repeating whatever we have done over and over, one after the other. And that is how we slowly get to cover everything. KK run 4, KK, ting, 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 ting. Where are we? Okay, this is the one. 10 seconds. Now see, we have 2 test cases against 2 sets of test data, and that's going to be 4 in total. Defining multiple steps in UDK is AnyAUT specific property, is it? Yeah, it's an AnyAUT feature. That's correct. So the first test is going on Chrome. Done. The second also is doing on Chrome. It must have some reason not recognized Firefox, and hence it'll pick up Chrome as the default. All right, team. I'll let this test execute for now, and ending the session. I'll see you back tomorrow. We'll continue from here. There is a hand raised. Let me see. Yeah, Satish. You have a question for me?
Yeah, Karthik, is Satish here?
Yes, please.
So the overall thing, what's happening is you create your base Excel sheet and then from the website, and then start manipulating that Excel, this one, right? Test steps, all the test steps, test data and everything.
That is correct.
All right.
And so some of the teams maintain everything here. So for example, now I made changes in the Excel, but instead they add everything out here. The only challenge is adding things in an Excel is very easy for us. So we don't need that web front end. You take this Excel sheet, change the URLs, change these details, change element IDs. It will work for any application. So you're once you have a good control of what to put where in the right format, like for example, I have to use a comma here or a Y here. What are the names that we give for each of this? Then it becomes easier to work through Excel sheet. There is one feature, however, that we are coming up with the latest one is like we have the download of an Excel, we also want to keep an upload. So we can import the entire Excel that we've created into the web platform. That way we also have both versions. That will be then the new version.
Last question, Karthik.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to test steps in that one, can you go to the test steps in that one?
Test steps, okay? Test setup, test
Yeah,
steps.
yeah. Let's say like I want to like, can you click on that? Yeah. So go scroll down. So in between 1 and 2 example, I missed a step, and now if I want to add it, how do I bring it like 1.1 or something? Is there something?
No, there. So if you look at my Trello,
Uh-huh.
it will show you here all those features of what I want to bring to that. So it does not. And
Uh,
that is where web template has become little challenging.
all
We
right.
wanted to see if we wanted to drag drop or click
Uh-huh.
on inserts here. We
All
don't
right.
have a way.
All right.
You have to basically change all the remaining step numbers first.
All right.
Then you have an empty one and then introduce.
All right. So you got to be a little bit careful initially when we create our test steps.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that is why you switch to Excel. And once you
Yep.
switch to Excel, you're fine there too.
Okay. But if we can
Here it
manage
is
it here, right, on the Excel sheet on the test run after
correct.
the
And
download.
here you can just say 2.1 and that is fine.
Oh, okay, that's fine. All right. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. You don't need to change the other numbers.
All right. Sure. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. Thanks, team. Please keep practicing. Bring up your questions. We can do Q&A tomorrow to begin with and then into the regular session. Bye all. Bye for now. Take care. Bye all.